listening to the Fantasy Takeaway Podcast with Murphy Hamilton and Joe Pollock. Proud member of the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast Network. Subscribe, listen, take home the title.
It's a BEA, beautiful day for football. Welcome to the Roto Bros and Fantasy Takeaway DFS podcast. I'm your host, Mark Wemkin, and I'm joined by, you might know him as the human stat sheet. I'll always know him as the producer man, Joe Pollock. What's going on, buddy?
Not much, man. I liked that episode last night. It was fun hearing Murphy on there.
Dude, I loved having Murphy on the show. I thought it was really, really nice. His process is so similar to Chris's, so it was like having two Chris's on the show. And I mean, I give Chris a hard time, but I love hosting the show with Chris. It was awesome having Murph on there. It's awesome having you on there. We need to get you on that show relatively soon as well. But dude, Thanksgiving slate. It is one of my favorite DFS days of the year. What do you think of this nice 3-game slate we got here?
It is a little bit confusing. Like, we've got this super high total game with the Saints and Falcons. We've got a super low total game with the Lions and Bears. And then we've got like a total wild card in the Cowboys and Bills. I don't know what to think about a lot of it, but I've got some ideas about how to attack it.
Yeah, me too. The thing about this slate is like the defense to attack is playing a total dog offense in the Chicago Bears. The Lions have one of the worst defenses in the NFL, one of the most friendly defenses for fantasy. So that's a little unfortunate. I definitely think how that game goes could dictate this slate. I think we know how to project Saints and Falcons. It's in a dome. Saints are 7-point favorites right now. They also have the highest team total on the slate. The absolute wild card, like you said, is going to be Buffalo and Dallas. That game, that afternoon game, is going to dictate the slate, in my opinion. 45.5 over under. Dallas is a 7-point home favorite right now. I do think there is a world where that game can be incredibly fast paced. We'll get to the logistics here in a bit. We're going to go game by game here, going to kind of switch it up instead of going position by position just because it's a 3-game slate. Joe, you kind of wanted to go over how to attack a small slate like this. We don't get a lot of them. It's either 10 game slate or it's showdown slate. And that's unless you play the primetime slate Sunday night into Monday night. I'm not big on that slate. So typically we're usually used to 10 game slates or showdowns. So how do you want to attack this 3-game slate?
I think it's a lot more like a showdown than it is like a 10-game slate. I do play a little bit of Monday, Thursday sometimes, just because there isn't as much like shark competition in those contests. But essentially what I do when I go into a slate like this is I make sure that I pay attention to the chalk because the chalk is chalkier than ever. If I think it's going to hit, there's no way I'm fading it. And beyond those plays, I like to find just a little bit of super contrarian. And I think we've got a few of those guys to talk about on this slate.
Yeah, I think we have some really good contrarian wide receiver plays on this slate. I think there's a lot of ways to be different and a lot of ways to get creative on this slate. I think a lot of people are going to be afraid to attack the Bears offense. Like, I think there's a lot of people that are going to be afraid to roster those players. Just some news and notes here for the Bears at Lions. Taylor Gabriel's not practiced this week. He's dealing with a concussion. I don't think he plays. You know, he was a DNP. We're going to have to see what he does tomorrow, but he has not been cleared. I don't think Taylor Gabriel's going to play. And Taylor Gabriel not being in definitely has an impact on that offense. So let's get right to it here. Bears at Lions, 38 implied total. That is the lowest total on the slate. The Bears are 3.5-point road favorites. Joe, where are you looking to attack this game?
I like Trubisky. I know that he isn't a great play most weeks, but that defense for the Lions is absolutely terrible. And Trubisky has actually been running the football. I know you have a little bit of data about that. I think that his floor is relatively safe, and we've seen Trubisky spike games. It's been a while, but they exist, and this could be one of them. And if it turns into one of them, he's going to be contrarian enough to win you some cash.
I agree with you. I think quarterback is pretty straightforward. Like, if you're playing cash games, and I am not playing any cash this week. I play mostly single entry GPP, and then I'd make a total Galaxy Brain lineup and I throw it into some large field GPPs. That's just how I do it. I don't want to sit here and sweat, $150 worth of cash game lineups on Thanksgiving. I would rather just have fun with the slate and enjoy it. So I'm playing mostly GPPs just for fun, and I'm going to be a little more friendly to my bankroll. But yeah, as far as quarterbacks are concerned, like there's a lot of good plays. You've got Drew Brees at 6.8, Matt Ryan 6.4, Josh Allen 6.2, Dak Prescott 5.7, and then down there, the lowest price starting quarterback on the slate with the best matchup. You've got Mitchell Trubisky at 5.3. He set a season high in rushing attempts this past week against the Giants. Trubisky is running again. Weeks 1 through 9, he had 11 rushing attempts total. Over the last 3 games, he's matched it. He has 11 more rushing attempts. So Trubisky is running again because he has learned, he knows now that he has to use his legs if he's going to be an effective quarterback in the NFL or a productive quarterback in the NFL. So I definitely do think there is a world where Mitchell Trubisky could be one of the better and lower owned quarterback plays on this slate, especially against that Lions defense. They have just been awful against quarterbacks.
Yeah, one of the things about Trubisky that you do have to keep in mind is that if he totally poops the bed, he could get pulled. And that's a big reason why you don't play cash games in slates like this, because you don't have those crazy amounts of options, and one game can totally dictate where the cash line sits in the slate. I think for those reasons, though, he's a good GPP quarterback this week because that's going to keep his ownership down and it's going to keep people from playing him.
The Lions have allowed the 5th most touchdown passes to quarterbacks this year. Trubisky threw 3 touchdowns against them when they played 2 weeks ago. This is a team that, historically speaking, Trubisky has manhandled. He had arguably the best game of his career against the Lions last year. It's a different team, so obviously what happened last year doesn't matter, but this is a team that, Trubisky does have their number and he can have a spike week against them. So I definitely think that's an interesting way to attack this game, at least to start. With Taylor Gabriel potentially out, it believe it or not, it does improve the passing game a little bit. Yards per pass attempt increases by about 0.7 of a yard. Explosive pass rate increases by a little under 1%. Passing success rate increases by 6.8%. So they have been a better offense with Taylor Gabriel off the field. Now, I don't think, correlation doesn't necessarily mean causation. I think that could be the case here. I believe Chase Daniel was the quarterback for some of those snaps. So, yeah, like if you look at Trubisky's yards per attempt, his don't really change with Taylor Gabriel, but Chase Daniels definitely do. So, again, correlation, not always causation, but it's still worth noting. And with Taylor Gabriel off the field, they are running at a much higher clip. They're running 11% more often when they don't have Taylor Gabriel. So, all right. So if you're looking to play Trubisky, who are you looking to stack him with?
Allen Robinson is the obvious one. I think he's a good play, but I also am pretty interested in Javon Wims because it's a totally contrarian play. He's bare minimum priced. And if Gabriel doesn't play, he actually gets some targets. Like he gets a role in the offense. And if you look at the 2 tight ends also maybe not playing in this game, you could be in a situation where Javon Wims is playing wide receiver and tight end and ends up on the field for 60, 70, maybe even 80% of the snaps.
Okay, so would you rather play Javon Wims at Stone Cold Min, or would you rather play Anthony Miller at 3.9?
I'm interested in both, but I think I'd rather play Javon Wims all the way down because then you can go and you can pay up for both elite running backs and Michael Thomas.
With Taylor Gabriel off the field, they both have a 4.5% red zone target share. Honestly, Allen Robinson has just dominated the red zone target share usage with Taylor Gabriel off the field this year. So, I mean, I think they have the same ceiling, essentially, Javon Wims and Anthony Miller. And like you said, with Trey Burton on IR, Adam Shaheen is banged up. Broniker he didn't practice. He might not go. The Bears have nothing at tight end. They have literally nothing. So it would make every bit of sense in the world to have the 6'4", 220-pound guy on the field as often as possible. So there is a world where they play a bunch of 11 personnel. They keep Anthony Miller in the slot, and they let Javon Wims just play most of the game on the outside with Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson gets usage in the slot as well. I think that's notable. I think Allen Robinson is the best play in this game, like by far. So if I'm rostering any Bears, it's starting with Allen Robinson, but I definitely like the idea of stacking him with Mitchell Trubisky. There's more plays on the Bears to talk about, but I want to talk a little bit about the Detroit Lions as well. Now, this Bears defense has still been good. They have still been very good against the pass. They rank 5th in explosive pass rate allowed this year. So they have been very good against the deep ball. That means Kenny Golladay could struggle. Marvin Jones could struggle. That's where those guys have made their money. What do you think about potentially rostering Danny Amendola? He sees a 3% higher target share with Jeff Driscoll at quarterback than Matthew Stafford this year.
I don't hate it. It's still a pretty tough matchup, and there isn't a whole lot of slot performances in the history against that Bears defense that are viable for this kind of format. But it's worth a play. He did get, I want to say, 8 targets last time that these two teams faced off, and Jeff Driscoll was the quarterback then too, so he did get a massive target share last time. I think there might be better plays on the slate, though. I think I would prefer the Javon Wims minimum price or the Anthony Miller to Danny Amendola.
I get liking Javon Wims over Danny Amendola. I think he might have a little bit more touchdown upside. I think I would rather roster Danny Amendola over Anthony Miller, though. Last 4 games, he's seen 5, 9, 5, and 3 targets. So the volume isn't concrete, but he's definitely seen a boost in target share with Jeff Driscoll. With this Bears defense potentially taking away the deep ball, that's where Danny Amendola could make his money in this game. So I am definitely interested, especially on DraftKings where you're going to get that PPR. And at 4.1, he's cheap. He is a low risk option. And if he catches a touchdown for you at 4.1, he's the Stones. So he's definitely one of the wide receiver guys I am looking at for sure. Honestly, if Taylor Gabriel ends up playing, I think he's a value at 4.3.
I think he's playable. I'm not super thrilled about any of the pass catching weapons if Taylor Gabriel plays, outside of Allen Robinson, obviously. I think that I would just go Allen Robinson and forget it at that point in this game if he does play.
I think if Taylor Gabriel plays, I mean, obviously I'm still going to have interest in Amendola, but I would agree with you. I think Allen Robinson is the only Bears pass catcher worth rostering at that point, outside of maybe throwing a dart at Gabriel. He has splash play equity and touchdown equity in this offense, so I would maybe throw some darts at him in a large field tournament. But other than that, obviously that would completely wipe Anthony Miller, in my opinion. That would probably wipe Javon Wims completely. So running back in this game, I think, is a bit interesting. Bo Scarborough is going to be one of the highest owned running backs on the slate. He's going to be the highest owned running back in this game for sure. He is 4.7 on DraftKings. DraftKings really made it easy for people that are going to be playing DFS for the first time on this Thanksgiving slate. Bo Scarborough is cheaper than Tariq Cohen, Tony Pollard, cheaper than David Montgomery. He's cheaper than Latavius Murray. He's 300 more than Brian Hill. He's only 600 more than Quadre Allison. They made it easy to get Bo Scarborough in there. He's played 47 and 50% of the snaps, saw 18 carries last week. What do you think? You going to eat some Bo Scarborough chalk?
I'm not all that interested. I think that I will probably fade him for the most part. I might put him in one lineup, but if I have more exposure than that, I'll be really surprised. Like Detroit is 21st in adjusted line yards. Chicago is 19th in adjusted line yards on the defensive side of the football. So it's not a great matchup. If Detroit was better or Chicago was a little bit worse, I'd be a little more inclined. But like the place where Chicago is really good is in second level and open field rank. So really your upside is pretty limited with the guy with Bo Scarborough's skill set.
Just like the Bears are 5th in explosive pass rate allowed this year, they are 5th in explosive run rate allowed this year as well, at just an 8% clip for explosive runs against. So they have still been a very stingy defense with or without Akeem Hicks. They're not going to have Danny Trevathan for a 3rd straight week, but they just shut down Saquon Barkley. So
they're 1st in second level rank and open field rank on Football Outsiders. They're legit on the back end.
It's still a good defense. It's still a defense you don't want to attack. Jeff Driscoll was not insanely productive the first time he saw them. This game's in Detroit. I think that matters. That makes a difference. But even so.
No, I don't think you can play him because if you're not playing cash, you need to get 20 plus points out of him at least.
Yeah.
And they've only allowed 20 plus points, 4 times this year? Only one player has hit that 300-yard bonus at the quarterback position. I'm not interested.
No, I want pass catching running backs against the Bears. I don't want guys that are going to get pounded between the tackles 18 times and see 0 targets. Bo Scarborough is an easy fade in tournaments for me. If you're playing cash, if you are insistent on playing double ups and 50-50s and head-to-heads on this slate, I'm not. I've already said I'm not. But if you are, I think you could do a lot worse than a 4.7 running back with touchdown equity that's going to see 18 to 20 carries. But in tournaments, I think he's an easy fade. I think he has a low ceiling. I don't see a world where he gets into the end zone twice in this game. So I don't intend on going to Bo Scarborough like at all. I think Tariq Cohen's a better play. I would actually rather spend the extra 700 and go up to David Montgomery. I don't think a lot of people are going to do that. David Montgomery has burned so many people. I don't think a lot of people, they're going to see Bo Scarborough for 4.7. They're just going to go down to Scarborough. When Montgomery at 5.4, he played 60% of the snaps last week. He shouldered most of the rushing work. He just hasn't been that good. But against the Lions, this is a good spot for him. So in this game, I would rather just load up on Bears, get my exposure to Danny Amendola, and maybe. Okay, do you think both defenses are in play in this game?
I do. I think it's going to be a pretty low scoring game. Honestly, if we're looking at this in terms of like the percentage of my players that are going to come from this game, it's going to be very small. Like 10 to 20% out of my entire field of players for this whole thing.
I agree with that. I think both defenses are in play, but the game I really want to stack is the afternoon game. I think everyone's going to run to stack the night game, and that's fine. You know, there's a lot of good plays in the night game, but the afternoon game is the one I really want to stack. So any final thoughts on Bears and Lions? You ready to move on?
One thing about David Montgomery, the Bears are blocking at a terrible rate.
Yes, they are.
But the Lions are one of the best possible matchups. They're 27th in adjusted line yard rank. They're 32nd in power yard rank. They're 30th in stuffed rank. So there is upside, certainly, for David Montgomery. I wouldn't argue if you wanted to play him somewhere.
It'll be on a per carry and a touchdown equity type basis. Detroit doesn't really allow big runs. They're 7th in explosive run rate, so they've actually been pretty good there.
Yeah, they're 9th in open field rank too, so they're not giving up a ton of huge plays.
Yeah, they get gashed for like 4 to 8 yards per carry. They're not giving up these 15 and 20 yard runs. So depending on how this script for your script for this game goes, if you think the Bears win, I think rostering David Montgomery and the Bears defense makes a ton of sense. If you think this game is a lot of back and forth with the Lions potentially winning, I think the Bears passing game makes sense with, a little bit of Danny Amendola mixed in. I think this game it doesn't have a super wide range of outcomes. I think it's somewhat easy to project. That's pretty much all I have for Bears Lions. This is the game that I am the most interested in. Buffalo at Dallas, 45.5 implied total. Dallas is a 7-point home favorite right now. Dallas has the second highest team total on the slate. Buffalo has, it looks like, the second lowest. They're ahead of just the Lions right now. So that's a bit interesting to me. I think there's a world where this game can shoot out. What are your thoughts on Buffalo and Dallas?
I'm really interested in almost all of the Dallas players. I think that Ezekiel Elliott might be the absolute nuts in this thing. I get that the play calling hasn't been ideal for running back production. He's not getting a huge target share. But the same reasons that I liked Derrick Henry last week are evident in this game. If you look at the Dallas run blocking efficiency, they're second in adjusted line yards, third in power rank, first in stuffed rank, third in second level rank. Then if you go over and look at Buffalo, they're okay in adjusted line yards, 14th. They're okay in power rank, 9th. They're good in stuffed rank, 7th, but they're 30th on second level and 30th on open field. That means that if Zeke gets to the next level, he's going to break one, and that could absolutely crush the slate if he does it twice.
Buffalo is second worst in the NFL currently in explosive run rate. So I'm with you on Ezekiel Elliott. I think he's the most dangerous play on the slate. The thing with how dangerous some of these plays are is everyone's going to play at Michael Thomas. He's only 9.1. I honestly think he's underpriced. He is mispriced. He should be like 9.6 or 9.7 on this slate, but he's 9.1. I think he needs to be in like 100% of your lineup, so that's easy. The problem people are going to run into is Alvin Kamara or Ezekiel Elliott, and I think a lot of people are going to look at Alvin Kamara just because he's got that safe target floor. It's a higher total game, higher team total. A lot of people are going to go Alvin Kamara, and like he's a good play. I get it, but I love this spot for Zeke. I think as a home favorite against a defense that is giving up explosive runs at a very high clip, all it'll take is for him to get to the second level once, and Ezekiel Elliott has the burst to break it. I am with you on Ezekiel Elliott 100%, and I think he's mispriced at 7.4. I will have him in a lot of my lineups. All right, so if we're talking about Ezekiel Elliott, what about Devin Singletary then? Because he's a guy that I definitely have interest in at 5.7. He's played over 70% of the snaps the last 2 weeks. He's played at least 66% of the snaps in 5 straight games. He is seeing great work. He's out-touching, out-carrying Frank Gore, and I definitely think there is a world where this game could shoot out, so both running backs could be viable. Where are you at with Devin Singletary?
Devin Singletary is probably my second favorite running back play on the slate. Buffalo is blocking at a borderline elite level, and Dallas is giving up a ton of big plays. Not giant plays. Their open field rank is 15th. It's middle of the pack, but they are beatable in the ground game. And one of the things about this matchup here is that Frank Gore's DVOA is negative. Devin Singletary's DVOA is, I believe, the second highest of all running backs this year. So if somebody's going to break a big play, it's definitely not going to be Frank Gore. And when you've got a guy like Devin Singletary on the field for 70% of the snaps and he's getting targets, I think he's a really nice play, especially if this game gets fast, because there's potential for this game to get real fast, and that would be really good for Devin Singletary.
I'm really glad you mentioned pace, because that's kind of what I was going to roll into. At the moment, Dallas is 6th in the NFL in seconds per snap, and they're among the league leaders in plays per game. So there is a world where this game has about 140 plays in it. And I think a lot of people are going to project it to be slow. So I think there's a way to gain an edge there. Just looking at the RotoViz pace tool, very useful tool, by the way. This game projects for a very, very fast pace. And I don't think a lot of people are looking at it. Just based on per game averages and plays per game averages, you can safely project this game for 135 plays, with the upside of potentially 140, 145. So stacking this game completely, I think, makes a ton of sense. Dallas's secondary's been good. They're only allowing about 6.5 yards per attempt this year, but I'm also interested in John Brown. I think this is a spot where John Brown could come in under owned. He's not a guy I want a ton of exposure to, but he's right in that price range where, people are going to look at Amari Cooper, Kenny Golladay. They're both cheaper than John Brown. 300 more, you've got Calvin Ridley, 400 more, you've got Allen Robinson. So he's kind of in a spot where I don't think a lot of people are going to play him. So I'm definitely interested in John Brown here.
If you look at how John Brown profiles athletically and what he does in the offense, he's kind of a similar player to that Robbie Anderson, Marvin Jones kind of guy. And Robbie Anderson put up 23.5 points against this defense. Marvin Jones put up 19.9. There's splash play equity. He's getting the target share. I think that a lot of people are going to be off of him because of that red number next to his name in terms of matchup. And I think that's a mistake. I think he's totally in play in this thing.
Dallas is 20th in explosive pass rate allowed this year. So I think that's definitely interesting. So like I said, I think he's a strong leverage play. It's like a price point pivot at that point at 6.3. I think I want to say he's overpriced, but he's not. We know what his ceiling is and we know what his floor is. I think he's priced completely appropriately, whereas Calvin Ridley's also priced appropriately. So why would I go Calvin Ridley over John Brown when I think John Brown is going to be far lower owned? John Brown you can project a better game environment for John Brown than you can for Kenny Golladay. Amari Cooper, he's going to be tough. He's got Trey White, but at 6K, he's completely mispriced. So I think we have to play Amari Cooper here. But as far as John Brown is concerned, if you think this game shoots out, you want John Brown in your lineups.
He's the 8th highest projected ownership too. He's not up there with Julio, Michael Thomas, Kenny Golladay. He's at like 20% at this point. So
is that wide receivers or just raw total?
Wide receivers. He's the 7th highest projected wide receiver on the slate at this point.
It's on a 3-game slate. I think that's pretty low.
Yeah, super low. I mean, it's 20%, so it's not going to get you all that much leverage on the field, but it's going to get you some, and that's what you need to cash in a single entry GPP in this kind of slate.
But that's the thing, though. With these ownership projections, a lot of them are designed to project ownership for the Millie Maker or contests like that. His ownership in single entry could realistically be in the single digits. I could be completely wrong on that, but if he's projected to be the 7th or 8th highest owned wide receiver in 20 max, 150 max tournaments, it will be lower in single entry, in my opinion. So I'm definitely interested in John Brown here. Quarterback, I think, is very tough. Quarterback is very tough. Both of these guys have tough matchups, but Dak Prescott at 5.7, he's mispriced. He is too cheap. I get it's the Buffalo defense. I get the Buffalo defense is elite. It is an elite pass defense. But at 5.7, he is priced as the QB5. He's priced behind Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, Josh Allen, and Matthew Stafford, who is doubtful. But he's only 200 more than Jeff Driscoll.
Yeah, it's a tough matchup. I think I still like both of these quarterbacks if we think this game has potential to shoot out. Like, I don't want people to get us wrong here and think that we're saying that like you only play players from this game. I want to have a lineup where I'm stacking mostly this game, but I don't want just exposure to this game because there is a chance that because of those run numbers that we put up earlier, both of these teams decide to pound the football all game long and slow the pace down. But if it goes the other way, I think both of these quarterbacks are in play. Dak Prescott at that price, you've almost got to play him if you're going to stack this thing. But Josh Allen has the rushing upside and he's only 500 more. So I think either of these guys are playable.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Josh Allen, I think, has the higher ceiling because in a game environment like we hope we could see on Thanksgiving, he is going to thrive in that game environment. You know, a lot of tic-tac back and forth. If this game starts going fast, where these teams are averaging 25 seconds per play and 140 plays get run in this game, Josh Allen is going to score 30 fantasy points. He's going to score 30 DK points, and you're going to want that in your lineup, especially when he's only 6.2. And so many people are just going to play Drew Brees and Matt Ryan. I don't know about Matt Ryan after he was such a massive chalk bust, but, you know, the field is getting sharper, so I do think he's going to garner a ton of ownership. But that's where a lot of the quarterback ownership is going to go. It's going to go to Brees and Ryan in the highest total, fastest projected pace game on the slate. So I think you can get a lot of leverage by rostering one of these two quarterbacks. You're going to save some salary. And I am with you. I want to make a lineup that just completely stacks this game. And then I take one or two pieces from the other games, you know, and my ideal stack in this game, I just think there's so many different ways to do it. You can go Zeke and the Cowboys defense. You can go Devin Singletary and the Bills defense. You can go Dak, Gallup, run it back with John Brown, or Dak, Gallup, run it back with Devin Singletary. You can go Josh Allen, John Brown, run it back with Amari Cooper and Ezekiel. There are just so many ways to stack this game because it has the widest range of outcomes by far on this slate.
I think I prefer Michael Gallup as far as Dallas wide receivers.
I love Michael Gallup this week. I think we could talk for 10 minutes about Michael Gallup, honestly.
Yeah, like the process that we had last week that led us really hesitantly to Tim Patrick is the process that leads you to Michael Gallup, because he's got the softer cornerback matchup. He's got splash play equity in the offense. He's got plenty of air yards market share. Like, he's a player that really could break the slate. And I don't think he's going to be that highly owned because that matchup looks terrible on paper if you're just looking at wide receivers versus Buffalo.
You know, he has a ceiling too. Like, Michael Gallup can drop 140 yards. He doesn't have the touchdown equity that, say, Amari Cooper has, but he does have the target volume. He will see the target volume in a game environment like that. So I am with you. I love Michael Gallup. Michael Gallup has been better at home this year. He's going to get, he gets Levi Wallace. Is that right? Levi Wallace?
Yeah, I think that's his name.
Yeah, I'm assuming.
It's Wallace for sure.
Yeah, it's Levi Wallace. I was looking to attack this guy last week. It was just hard. He's allowed 47 catches on 68 targets, 4 touchdowns, and 112.9 passer rating in coverage this year. And that is per the TQE wide receiver versus cornerback matchups tool. There is more useful data here. He's allowed 104.9 passer rating against zone, 126.4 passer rating in man. This is a smash. This is who Michael Gallup is probably going to see. And that's assuming Tre'Davious White shadows Amari Cooper. I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't really been paying attention. Has Amari Cooper, or I should say, has Trey White been shadowing over the last few weeks? He has, correct? I think he shadowed the last 3 weeks. I don't want to say I haven't been paying attention, but I can't remember off the top of my head. I want to say he has shadowed the last 3 weeks.
Last 4.
Oh, because he shadowed Cortland Sutton too.
Yep,
that's right. Did you see the stat line Cortland Sutton put up?
1 catch on 9 targets.
Yeah, one catch. Led the league in week 12 in weighted opportunity, caught 1 ball for 27 yards. That's Trey White.
It's a tough matchup, man. And that's why I'm kind of off Amari Cooper and way on Michael Gallup. That's not saying I'm going to have zero Cooper exposure because he can break any slate, but I'm going to have more Gallup than him for sure.
Yeah, and after seeing what Stephon Gilmore was able to do to Amari Cooper and hold him, I think he shadowed Amari Cooper on 27 of his 30 routes, if I'm not mistaken, and held him to 0 catches. That is incredible. With what Amari Cooper has been doing to cornerbacks and man coverage this year, he has made cornerbacks look like absolute clowns in man and press man this year, and Stephon Gilmore was dominant. Trey White is very, very good. He's
not quite as good as Stephon Gilmore, but he's close.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a good way to put it. He is not quite as good as Stephon Gilmore, but like he is a monster. You know what? I want to take a look at Tre'Davious White's metrics here just to see how he's going to match up against Amari Cooper because he's been so good.
It's not really a knock on Tre'Davious White either. I think Stephon Gilmore is the best cover corner in football.
He's the best man coverage corner in football. I don't think it's particularly close, but Trey White, 30 catches on 59 targets, 4 picks, has not allowed a touchdown this year, 41.9 passer rating in coverage. He's allowed a 39.3 passer rating in zone and a 63.4 passer rating in man. The Bills are playing a bit more zone than they are man. They're playing about 42% zone, but this is going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Amari Cooper is mispriced, but at the same time, like it does make sense why they decided to price him down.
Yep. Couldn't agree more.
Anything else you like in this game? This game is loaded. I just think there are so many ways to be different in this game.
I think Buffalo is the best defense on the slate, but I'm certainly not playing them against Dallas. I'll have 0 exposure.
I'm hesitant to play them against Dallas. I think this game is going to be fun. I think it shoots out. I think it gets fast paced. And that's a big reason why, even though he is seeing Tre'Davious White, I want exposure to Amari Cooper, especially because I think he's going to get forgotten about. People are going to, especially the new players, the people that are playing on Thanksgiving for fun, they're going to jump into these contests for the first time and they're just going to see 0 catches. I'm not playing him against Tre'Davious White, or 0 catches. I'm not playing him against the Bills. And I do think there is a way where Amari Cooper can come out on top in this game. He had a 119.6 passer rating when targeted in zone this year. Him versus Trey White is just going to be very interesting to watch. Dude, check this out. 158 passer rating when targeted against man coverage this year. 16 catches on 17 targets, 2 touchdowns. Amari Cooper.
Perfect.
That's going to be interesting. I told myself I was only going to do like a handful of builds and I was going to do it by hand. I don't know if I'm going to be able to stick to that. I'm going to be up all night Wednesday night.
No, Max Multer entering the Thanksgiving slate sounds crazy to me.
It just sounds like such a bad idea. I'm supposed to be eating dinner with my family. I'm hunched over my phone in front of the TV, sweating DFS lineups. Oh my God. Dude, imagine spending time with your family on Thanksgiving and not sweating DFS lineups. Couldn't possibly be me.
Oh man, I honestly, for real, the way that I'm going to attack the slate is play like 3 or 4 single entry GPPs. I'm going to pick the lineup that I like to hit the best with a contrarian player and put it in a like big GPP.
That's what I'm going to end up doing. I want to make like 3 or 4 builds, enter them each into a few contests, not have a ton in the field to the point where I'm constantly checking my phone. But at the same time, I want to have enough in the field where if I did something right, I get a nice payout. So
I'm planning to lose $30 on this slate. That's what I'm planning on. But I think I can win. I think that I have enough good plays that I can win some money, but like that's where the default is. Like I might lose some money.
I think that sounds about right. Anything else with Dallas and Buffalo?
I think that's it.
I think that's it for me too. That game has the widest range of outcomes, as we've said. I think 13-9 is in that game's range of outcomes, and I think 30-27 is in that game's range of outcomes. So,
or higher. Higher is possible.
I would agree with you. I think there is a world where that game can get insanely fast paced. Dak Prescott could throw 4 touchdowns and 400 yards, or Dak could throw 0 touchdowns, 0 picks, and 220 yards at 6.5 yards per attempt, and Ezekiel Elliott just smashes.
Yeah, the galaxy brain Dak thing really isn't in play. Like the only time we've really seen that this year was against the Packers, right?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Like terrible decision making, throwing interceptions, and then trying to make up for it by fitting the ball into windows he shouldn't fit it into. He's really only done that once this year.
Yeah, the thing about that Packers game, though, was like, did he have a bad interception or two? Yes. He made a couple of sick plays in that game, though. Like, Dak Prescott is a talented quarterback, and that's one of the reasons why I think he can do something against the Bills. But I don't think that's what's going to happen in this game. But like I said, the range of outcomes for this game is insane. So let's move on to the night game. Highest total game on the slate, 48.5 over under. The Saints are 7-point road favorites. New Orleans has the highest team total on the slate. How are we attacking this game, Joe?
Michael Thomas is the thing you have to look at first, because he's going to have 80+% ownership, maybe 90+% ownership. At 9,100, he is the best play on the slate. He has a chance to hit 4X even at that price. You cannot fade him. If you fade him, the only way that you're cashing is if he busts, and he hasn't busted since Drew Brees came back. He's hit at least 2.5X in every single one of those games. So I think Michael Thomas is where you have to start, and then we move on to the rest.
The question I'm asking myself with Michael Thomas is, if Christian McCaffrey or Lamar Jackson were on this slate, would I be fading Christian McCaffrey or Lamar Jackson? No,
exactly.
No, I wouldn't.
He is the Christian McCaffrey of this slate.
Exactly. I don't need to cite any data to tell people that Michael Thomas is the best play on the slate, and it's not particularly close. But he over the last month, he has a floor of 28.4 DK points. He has a floor of 10 targets, and the Atlanta secondary isn't good. You're playing Michael Thomas and moving on. You know, if you're one of the people in the Discord and you're sending me a lineup that doesn't have Michael Thomas in it, I'm probably just going to laugh at you. And then you're going to get mad at me, and then you're going to unsubscribe, and then nobody wins. So, just build with Michael Thomas.
I think we have to ignore the last game too. I think we have to consider that game an outlier. Like, I'm not considering it an outlier to the point where I'm going to stack the chalk exclusively in this game. But I think that this game is still going to be a high-scoring game. I think both offenses are going to produce. I don't think that the Saints are going to get shut down. But even if they do, the last time that they played each other, Michael Thomas scored 31.2 points, even in that slog of a game.
I was going to say, you think we're just going to throw out 13 catches for 52 yards like it's not just a typical Michael Thomas game? Dude scored 31.2 DK points without scoring a touchdown. Like, yep. What?
13 catches on 14 targets for 152 yards.
That's just Michael Thomas things. That is full-blown Michael Thomas things. All right, so if we're playing Michael Thomas, are we stacking him with his quarterback? Drew Brees is the highest priced quarterback on the slate at 6.8 on DraftKings. I don't want to play Drew Brees. He's a good play. He is a fantastic play, but I don't want to play him.
I don't want to play him either, and it's just because it doesn't give me enough value at the rest of the positions on the slate, and I don't want to have 100% Javon Wims. That sounds terrifying to me.
I would agree with you. What does Drew Brees have to do to absolutely bury you? 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns?
4 touchdowns and 350 yards would crush you pretty good on this slate, unless you're playing Matt Ryan or Josh Allen or Dak Prescott and they do the same thing.
Yeah, and with the clip this team is running at, I mean, I just don't know if that is, it's in the range of outcomes. I just don't know if we're going to see it. I trust New Orleans to run. New Orleans is first in the NFL in adjusted line yards. So I definitely think they're going to run the football at least a little bit. They're middle of the pack in pass to run ratio. They're about 61% pass, 39% run. But he's a good play. I'm not going to argue with anybody that is playing Drew Brees at all. If you're playing cash, I think he's the best quarterback option on the slate. I think he's got the safest floor and one of the highest ceilings. I'm not going to say he has a higher ceiling than Josh Allen, but he's easily got the safest floor of any quarterback on this slate. So if you're playing if you're playing Drew Brees, I'm completely fine with it. I want the savings. I know I'm going to want the savings in either Dak Prescott, Mitchell Trubisky, or even Josh Allen. So that's probably why I won't get to Drew Brees. But the next guy on the Saints that we need to talk about is going to be Alvin Kamara. He's probably going to be one of the higher owned running backs on the slate. I just don't know if he will be as high owned as Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, he's the second highest projected ownership on the slate, right around 40%. Ezekiel Elliott's around 30%. Devin Singletary's around 30%. I think that all of these running backs are in play. I wouldn't play Latavius Murray just because I think that Alvin Kamara has bigger upside. Like, Latavius Murray might be an okay cash play, but it's just hard to play a guy that's on the field for that few snaps. I think Alvin Kamara is totally in play, though.
Yeah, he only played 39.4% of the snaps. He has to score a touchdown. That's the only thing with Latavius Murray is he's just not on the field enough. 100 total yards is highly unlikely from Latavius Murray. He is all touchdown equity if you're rostering him. If you're maximum entering, I think I would want a little bit of exposure to Lat Murray. I think I would want like 5 to 10%, but he would be all the way down at the bottom of my player pool if I was max entering. So as far as the Saints offense goes, I think at tight end is gross this week. So I definitely think Jared Cook is in play. Assuming Austin Hooper does not go, Austin Hooper did not practice today. We're going to have to see if he practices on Wednesday. At the time of this recording, we are recording on Tuesday night. So we got to see if Austin Hooper does go. But Jared Cook is the most expensive tight end on the slate, assuming Hooper does not play at 4.8. So I definitely think he's in play. He's been productive the last few weeks. Saw 10 targets 2 weeks ago, caught a touchdown last week, and then was very productive against the Panthers in week 12. So he has been doing a lot, honestly. He's been a big part of this offense. Could you get behind rostering Jared Cook?
I can, but the question at that point becomes, where is your savings? Because you definitely, if you're trying to just stack this game, I don't know where you're going to get the savings to pay Jared Cook, Michael Thomas, and Drew Brees. I don't even think you can go down to Matt Ryan. I don't see how you can do it, but I think having 0 to exposure to him might be a mistake because 2 touchdowns are completely in his range of outcomes. And if you're not rostering him at that point, you're in a lot of trouble.
Well, I mean, I already know where my savings are coming from. I'm going to have like 100% Javon Wims and Danny Amendola. So where you guys are saving, I haven't the foggiest, but I know where I'm going to be saving.
There are some interesting plays to save on tight end if you really want to. I think that TJ Hawkinson is in play. Like his target shares kind of sucked, but the Bears are absolutely awful. So I think you could go there, but Jared Cook's a good play. He's a good play.
We didn't even talk about Dawson Knox at tight end. He's 2.9 on DraftKings going against a defense that funnels usage to the tight end.
He's a good play too. The problem there is that they use 3 tight ends.
They use 3 tight ends. His target share hasn't been there. He's seen like 11 targets over the last 3 games. So he's 2.9. He's a punt, and you're hoping to get a touchdown out of it. But Dallas has funneled the 7th most targets to the tight end this year. They've allowed 582 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns to the position. So I definitely think Dawson Knox is in play. It's not a play I'm super comfortable with. I will probably have him in one of my 4 or 5 builds, and I'll be done with it. And I'll probably have the rest just be Jared Cook. And that's probably it. I don't know who else I want to play at tight end. I'm not chasing anything the Bears are strouting out. I'm not doing it.
I would be interested if TJ Hawkinson can't go with that shoulder injury, rostering Logan Thomas, because he becomes the pass catching tight end in that offense at that point, and it's a great matchup.
It is a good matchup. He's 2.9 as well. Same price
as well.
I think he might even be a better play than Dawson Knox. I think that's a good play.
Yeah, if TJ Hawkinson doesn't go. If TJ Hawkinson goes, it's a total fail.
Yeah, TJ Hawkinson goes, you can't play him. All right, let's go back to Saints and Falcons. Again, highest total game on the slate. This is the game that everybody wants to stack. It's got all the high-priced guys in it. Where do we go from here? I mean, you got to be looking at pretty much all the Saints. Do you want any receivers beneath Michael Thomas?
Unless you're mass multi-entering, I don't know how you can. They're just too unpredictable.
Too unpredictable. They just don't see the volume you want to see. The Saints will run. When they get up, they will run. So I don't think so as well. As far as the Falcons are concerned, Devonta Freeman practiced in full today. From what I've heard, he is a full go for Thursday. He's extremely cheap. I can get behind rostering him, but it is a tough matchup.
It's a tough matchup, and also Atlanta has been bottom 5, bottom 6 in most categories in terms of run blocking, so it's not a great play. I think just because of the cost savings, he's interesting, but it's not a solid, like he needs a touchdown, maybe 2 to get you value.
What kind of snap share can we predict out of his first game back too? Is it going to be a full
it's tough.
80% of the snaps?
Is it 90? We have no idea. The range of outcomes is too big.
It's hard to see me because it's not like he's coming back from a concussion. He's coming back from a foot injury. No, coming back from a foot injury. So it's not like they're going to give him 80% of the snaps right away. Brian Hill should still be involved. Quadre Allison should still be at least somewhat involved. I don't want to play with that backfield. It's a tough matchup. It's a mismatch, honestly. I definitely think the Saints defense is in play in this game for sure. I just hate that they're the highest price. You're not really getting any savings there. It's tough. I'd
rather play Bo Scarborough than Devonta Freeman.
I think I would as well. I think at least his volume is concrete and we know what to expect. Just looking at the pace of this game, I do think if it stays remotely close, there will be a lot of throwing. There will be a ton of throwing. And that means I am at least somewhat interested in Falcons pass catchers, especially if Julio Jones is out. Julio Jones did not practice today on Tuesday. We got to see what he does on Wednesday. But if Julio Jones can't go, Calvin Ridley becomes a value and Russell Gage becomes a value. What do you think?
I think Russell Gage becomes a bigger value. The biggest question about that, and we need to pay attention, we'll talk about this in the Discord chat plenty, but Marshawn Lattimore. If Marshawn Lattimore plays, Julio Jones doesn't play. Like, we need to pull up the TQE matchup tool because what does Calvin Ridley look like against Marshawn Lattimore?
I don't know. I think that's a mismatch in favor of Marshawn Lattimore, assuming they run mostly man against Calvin Ridley. If they start running zone, I think that matchup favors Calvin Ridley, but we'll have to dive into that a little deeper. And if Julio Jones doesn't go, Russell Gage is the guy I want. Russell Gage is the guy I want. You know, he's lower upside, but I think he's a little more easily predictable. Saw an 18% target share last week. He only saw 76 air yards, which isn't really a lot. But
it's not terrible, though. It's not unviable.
No, it's not unrosterable at all either. I actually don't know what his price is off the top of my head. Where did they price Russell Gage?
4,500.
40. Oh, you know what? I could pay 4,500 for Russell Gage.
Sure.
I don't think that's outrageous. You know, it's not
appropriate.
It's not a free square by any means. If Julio is out, it's not a free square, but if Julio is out, I will be playing Russell Gage. Not happy about it, but I will be playing him. What else in this game are you looking at? Are you looking at Matt Ryan at all? And I would guess the Saints defense is in play.
Matt Ryan's in play. The Saints defense is in play. The Saints defense legitimately is the best defensive play on this slate, in my opinion, but it's also the most expensive play. So if you can't afford it, I think a pivot is okay. But if you can, I think it's the best play.
I do like the Dallas defense on this slate a lot. And the good thing about the Dallas defense is even if that game goes the way I want it, the Dallas defense can still be a good play because it'll just give them more opportunity for turnovers. Josh Allen is a turnover and sack prone quarterback, you know, so I would be very interested in the Dallas defense. They're the pay down option from the Saints, in my opinion. I think they're the best pay down option.
And shockingly enough, is Ezekiel Elliott is also a pay down option at running back. So you can put that correlation together.
He is so much cheaper than Alvin Kamara. And that's why it's just easier for me to play Zeke in my builds where I'm hypothesizing that the Cowboys win. But, you know, play for play, Kamara versus Zeke, Kamara's target share is just so high. It's just so high. Last 4 games, 7, 8, 10, and 9 targets. Still seeing double-digit carries as well. So 20 opportunities in almost every game. He's very tough to fade. You can play him in the same lineup as you play Michael Thomas. I just think at that point, you need to find value because if you're playing both Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas, I think I would want Drew Brees.
Yeah, how do you not? If they both smash, Drew Brees smashes.
If Alvin Kamara is going to score, I think it's through the air. I think they want to use Latavius Murray on the ground. So it would just be a correlation at that point. I think this game is simple. I think how everyone is projecting this game to go is how the game is going to go. The other 2 games are the games that are going to be the ones to dictate this slate. Buffalo and Dallas is still my favorite game. All right. Any more news and notes on Saints and Falcons?
I don't think so, man. I think that's it. We covered pretty much every player. I think every player in that game is essentially in play, including Latavius Murray if you're entering a ton of lineups.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. All right. Before we wrap up the show, the last thing I do want to talk about is your optimal and ideal game stacks. What are your favorite game stacks for the week and how you want to construct your lineups with them?
Well, I really like that Ezekiel Elliott Dallas defense stack. I think that's a nice way to start that saves you so that you can stack that other high total game. Obviously, if you can fit it, everybody's going to do it. But if you can get your contrarian play to hit the Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, Drew Brees stack, could be the nuts if your contrarian play hits. I really like the Dak Prescott, Michael Gallup stack. I'm not sure I want to play Zeke in that stack because if the pace goes so that Dak and Gallup roll, Zeke probably doesn't get any target share and they don't run him that much. So it's probably just a 2-player stack at that point for me. Josh Allen, John Brown is fun. I think my favorite one is the Dallas stack, though.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like the Dallas stack a lot. I love the Josh Allen stack. I do think there is a world where Singletary and the Bills defense could make some sense. David Montgomery and the Bears defense, I think, is in play. And I think if I'm playing Mitchell Trubisky, I want to stack him with both Tariq Cohen and Allen Robinson for sure. I think a lot of people are going to trot out Bo Scarborough and the Lions defense. That's a stack I want to fade. I think it's going to be extremely high owned. It's got low upside, and it's just not something I want a ton of. Other than that, I think you covered it with Dallas. I'm having such a hard time getting away from Josh Allen because if the game environment for this contest goes the way I want it to and the way I think it will and the way it projects to just based on per game, per play totals, I really think this game could be a ton of fun, and a lot of people are going to project it to be slow and not what we think it is. So I think it could be a contrarian way to just completely full game stack this game and get 1 or 2 pieces from the hammer and see what happens.
What are you doing at tight end if you stack that whole game?
If you stack, I'm not playing.
Jared
I don't want
Cook?
to. Wait, if I stack that whole game, you mean if I stack Dallas and Buffalo?
Yeah.
If I stack Dallas and Buffalo, I'm probably not taking my tight end from it.
Yeah, you're going off that game for your tight end, right?
Yeah, I'm interested in Logan Thomas, like you said. I'm interested in Jared Cook. I think on a small slate where, you're just heaving up a prayer at tight end, I think Dawson Knox could make some sense against a defense that's very soft against the tight end. That's if we get Logan Thomas and TJ Hawkinson is out, I'm definitely interested. But that's what I would do there. I don't want to play any Dallas tight ends against the Bills. The Bills have just been brutal against tight ends. They're allowing the second fewest fantasy points to tight ends this year. Joe Pollock, any final thoughts on the Thanksgiving slate 2019?
Just remember that this is more for fun than for building your bankroll. Like, you might bank a GPP, but you're probably going to lose most of your money this week. You want to get one really solid lineup that hits. That's what you need.
I agree with you. I don't want to go overboard on this slate. I know there's a lot of people that are DFS pros. Yeah, I'm a content producer. I'm good at this, but I'm not a guy that has hundreds of thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars in the field. So I'm not going to go overboard, but I am going to be playing, and hopefully I will be sweating at least one lineup come Thursday night, which would be interesting because I do have to be at work at 4 a.m. on Friday. So I really do hope I'm sweating that game so I can call into work on Friday and be like, yeah, sorry, I was up sweating a DFS lineup. I'm not making it in. All right. That is all we got. Thanksgiving Day slate. Joe Pollock, where we're going to find you, buddy?
At Human Stat Sheet on Twitter. You can listen to our show, The Fantasy Takeaway, on basically any major platform, and you can follow the show on Twitter at FF Takeaway.
You're going to find me on Twitter at Mark Wemken. That's MarkWemken. And you're also going to find me at thequantedge.com every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Every Tuesday, snaps and targets report. It's already written, just waiting for it to be published, and it'll be in your guys' hands. Thursday, injury impact report. And then on Saturday, I have some slate breakdowns for you and a Sunday Night Football Showdown slate article for you. So make sure you guys are checking that out. For Joe Pollock, Chris McConnell, Murph Hamilton, all of my buddies in the Roto Bros Discord chat, we're out of here. As always, keep balling, baby.
Thanks for listening to the Fantasy Takeaway Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And follow the show on Twitter at FF Takeaway.